there's two more data types that I just want to talk about just at a very high level. I'm not going to show you how to operate on them, but you can go, I left links in the docs here that you can go check out how to use them. The first of them is HyperLogLog, which I just love the name. So it's often abbreviated HLLs. So in another one of my courses, the 4 semesters of computer science part 2, I talk about a thing called Bloom filters. So Bloom filters are these kind of things where you can add things to it, and they're very fast for lookups, but they have a margin of error. This is great for extremely large data sets where you have a tolerance for false positives. So HyperLogLogs are actually that same idea implemented inside of Redis. It doesn't use Bloom filters, it uses something called a HyperLogLog. I don't know why they're called that. Did I put that in there? No, I didn't. So anyway, you can probably go search through the docs. It's another way of doing these kind of Bloom filter type of ideas. And the nice thing about HyperLogLogs versus Bloom filters can have very high margins of errors, like up to 30, 20%, something like that. HyperLogLogs is like a 0.8% margin of error. So let me just give you an example of when you might use something like this. There's a great article from Medium and when they used Bloom filters on medium.com of when to recommend a new article to a user. What they'll use a Bloom filter to say, should I show this or should I recommend this article to this user? And they'll use a Bloom filter to determine whether or not they should or should not show that to the person. Whenever a user has read an article, they don't want to recommend to that user again to read that same article. So what they do is they add it to this Bloom filter, or in this case, they could add it to a HyperLogLog. And sometimes it's going to tell them this user has read this article when in fact that user hasn't read that article. But the consequence of that false positive is that that particular user won't be recommended an article that they haven't read before, which is fine because they'll just get recommended another article that they definitely haven't read before. It's kind of a strange thing, but the trade-off here is with having some tolerance for that false positive, you're able to go way faster and have much less memory footprint. So that's what that is. If it's a little weird, it's because it's weird. Someday in the future, you might have that, it's like, oh, this is the perfect time. I've been waiting my whole damn life. I want to use a HyperLogLog. Or that moment may never come, and I'm sorry that you won't have such a glorious moment with HyperLogLogs. Okay, so that's HyperLogLogs. The other thing is streams. These are much more newer to Redis, and I have not personally used them. But it's basically something you can do pub/sub, so publish subscribe with Redis. You can subscribe to a key where something can be publishing new things to that key, and then using a stream, you can just be continually reading things out of Redis. So it's basically, you can subscribe into like a read-only stream and get keys out of that. So the example that they use is like logging, right? So if you're logging something from your app service, you can log it to Redis, and you can have something else subscribing to that continual logging to that stream. So another good thing to do that would be like reading from an IoT device. If you have like a temperature sensor that's reading and giving a new reading like every 3 minutes, you could be subscribed to that temperature update through a stream in Redis. I don't know if that's how I would implement it. Obviously, I haven't, so I can't really tell you. But that is a data type that is available to you in Redis as well.